I give my unvarnished opinion without really thinking things through all the time. I'm just allowing things to just come right out of the id.
I like it. That's the way it needs to be, because if you didn't know, you have tuned into the newest episode of CUST Corner.
CUST Corner, it's CUST Corner. CUST Corner, it's CUST Corner. He's got the hottest takes with the highest stakes. He should be president of the United States, but it's CUST Corner, it's CUST Corner. CUST Corner, hee 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 hee.
Still think we should change that name.
Well, you still haven't come up with an acceptable replacement name, Tim.
Top Cat Corner, I think, works much better.
No, listen, Top Cat, that's
Well,
not happening.
that confuses people in the Top Cat brand name, because right now there's the Top Cat Review.
There's Top Cat, the cartoon character.
Yeah. Wasn't there was a published paper with Tim's thoughts
Yes.
and theories.
Top Cat Weekly.
Right, Top Cat Weekly, of course.
That was excellent, by the way. Shout out to Adam Daly for that.
So we could do Top Cat Weekly, the podcast, but I feel like that's just too
I feel like there should be another
convoluted.
newsletter coming out after this one when Tim has a whole fresh set of hot takes. So the way
scorching takes.
the way that CUST Corner works is we sit here and Tim tells us what's been grinding his gears over the past, well, whatever time is between the last time we did it now, like 3 weeks or something like that?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Feels like 3.
It feels like forever.
Been too long.
People have been demanding it. So, Tim, the floor is yours. What do you got?
So, sometimes things just fall into your lap. Over the last couple of weeks...
Strippers.
Over the last couple of weeks, the Movie Network has been just serendipitously re-showing all the Roger Moore James Bond movies. And so I watched all 7 of them start to finish. And then out of nowhere, Sir Roger Moore passed away. And I knew this was going to happen because this stuff always happens when people pass away. On Twitter, there were various articles being written, including one in the National Review, which is a journal I have a very high opinion of. But the article was why Roger Moore is clearly the best James Bond. And it occurred to me that this just isn't right. There's a lot of problems with this thesis. His movies are not the best movies. I mean, he's a part of the 007 lore, and he's important, and we can't forget about him. But all of the wailing about this is the greatest James Bond, blah blah blah. His movies are no good for the most part, and he's not the best James Bond, and so that annoyed me. The sort of beatification of Roger Moore, who seems to be a lovely human being, but just not the best Bond. And the fact that he died is the reason people are saying that.
Now,
I was going to say that, probably who wouldn't take pity upon Roger Moore in his death? Sean Hannity. Probably tell it like it is. Not the best Bond.
Tim is the...
Conspiracy.
I don't know if that's really even a conspiracy. Tim's right. Roger Moore is not
No, he's
one
not.
of the best Bonds.
Everyone knows it's Pierce Brosnan.
Good God.
Oh, God.
But the Roger Moore movies are objectively bad movies.
Yeah,
But
And that's not, no, to be fair, that's not Roger Moore's fault.
No, it's not, but he's the one in them.
He is the one in them, and I will say, on his behalf at least,
You're now speaking for the estate of Roger
we'll give
Moore?
him his fair
Are you
due.
like John Phil, or what was that guy's name? John, the Other Side host?
Of what?
He spoke to the dead.
Oh, John Edwards?
John Edwards.
Yeah,
John
Edward, yeah.
Edwardsing?
If you read Ian Fleming's books or look at the sort of Bond Ian Fleming tried to produce, Roger Moore is far closer to the authentic James Bond.
Who cares? The movies and the books don't need to matter to him. They're two separate
I agree
entities.
with you. I'm just, to give him his due, he certainly plays James Bond closer to the way Ian Fleming imagined him, sort of the debonair, suave, sort of person that looks like they've been poured into a suit. In terms of the look, I would say maybe Roger Moore does have the most James Bond-y look, but he's not the best James Bond. And he was also in his 50s through most of these movies, and you could tell.
Well, I think you've really buried the lead here because you're on point with Roger Moore not producing the best movies, but I think it's kind of, I don't even want to say a coincidence. I think the fact that you sat down and watched all the Roger Moore Bond movies and then he dies as soon as you finish, Andercust!
This is not my fault. They were put on the Movie Network the last couple of weeks, and that's why I was watching them again.
They were tempting the curse, and it worked.
There was at no
They
time
had
in the last
there's the
month
conspiracy. The Movie Network had a secret agenda to get rid of Roger Moore, so
Interesting.
they had to lure Tim's powers into it.
Are you sure the Movie Network's just not working for Blofeld?
It could be. That was a fun story. Did you read that one?
Yes, I did. In fact, I tweeted out. That shows that's a real nice human being.
Yeah, it's back before the days of executive lounges at airports. I just got a new MasterCard, which gets me into them. It's great.
Oh, nice.
So now I'm just going to travel more so I can soak in all my executive lounges.
Did you have to pay money to get your credit card?
Yeah, I had to pay $99 for $99 a year.
Okay, that's not too bad.
It gives me complete travel insurance. It gives me 2,000 free air miles. It's legit. I'm now a spokesperson for the International Air Miles MasterCard.
There you go.
Are they sponsoring this podcast?
I mean, listen, if we get a big deal like MasterCard on board, I'm all about it. I'll cut up my visa right now.
I will shill for MasterCard too if you'd like me to.
No, they don't need to be cursed.
They'll be dead.
Yeah.
But it's not
MasterCard
my fault
out of business.
It is not my fault that the movie network was showing these movies. Do you think
No, it's just your fault that he
I woke up a month
died.
ago and said, you know what I'd like to watch again? Moonraker.
You
or
can watch
Octopussy.
anything you want to watch.
Yeah, but it never would occur to me to watch those movies again.
So do you want to
But
have...
I did because they were on, and they needed to be rewatched because it was, like most 13-year-old boys, I became fascinated with James Bond and watched all these movies a long time ago. And many of them I have not watched in 15 years at least. So it was good to sort of, remember where I was when I first watched like Octopussy or Live and Let Die. And so it was good to rewatch those movies.
Well,
a couple of them are actually pretty good. Most of them are no good.
A couple of them are kind of mediocre, and the rest of them aren't good. And here's the thing, because some people will say that Roger Moore is their Bond. I know you kind of facetiously said it that Pierce Brosnan is your Bond, but he is your Bond. When you grew up, he was Bond.
I will say, even when I grew up, though, I think there was still a prevailing sense that
Connery is Bond.
Connery is Bond.
Connery is Bond.
Brosnan just plays him. Even at the time, SNL was still using really, was Sean Connery relevant enough in the late 90s to be deserving of being the title piece of Celebrity Jeopardy? No, but everyone knew who Sean Connery was, so it's okay.
Yeah,
he's a staying power.
He's Indiana Jones's dad.
He was in The Rock. I like The Rock.
He's great in The
Hunt for Red
Untouchables.
October.
Yeah,
he's in stuff.
Yeah,
but we will also say in Roger Moore's behalf, he is the Bond in the greatest scene in Bond history, which I talked about the other day.
Yeah, I don't. It's one of the better. It
is the best. It's the most iconic Bond.
I'm sorry. This might be left open to interpretation of what's the best Bond scene.
It's not.
No, it's in it. We're gonna get to one of these hot takes later from you that you think is very concrete, which it isn't.
It's a garbage argument to disagree with that. The scene that is the most iconic in Bond history is him coming off the ski slope and the British parachute opening in The Spy Who Loved Me.
I would say the most iconic scene in Bond
is Ursula Andress coming out of the water in Dr. No.
I do not agree.
That could be that too, but I would say the most iconic scene in Bond is just when he's strapped to the table and there's the laser beam coming out his junk, because that's the one that's parodied the most.
And it's in the best Bond
movie. Is it in?
And it's in the Simpsons episode. That is maybe the best Simpsons episode that parodies Bond.
If it's so iconic, which movie did it come from?
I don't know.
Well, how iconic could it be then?
It's a scene. I don't remember the movie. I remember the scene.
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about the opening to this specific movie where he's skiing down the ski hill, opens up the parachute, and has the Union Jack parachute, do you know what movie that's from?
Nope.
See? So what's the matter?
Me.
Not you idiot.
Oh, because it leads into the Carly Simon song.
So there's a whole bunch of Bond we can break down here. We can break down the movies. We can break down who's the better Bond. We can break down the songs.
Mm-hmm.
And which are better. But I think a lot of this just skews towards personal taste. If you're looking at objectively good Bond movies, you're going to be looking at From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Casino Royale, The Living Daylights, Skyfall. Those are probably your best five.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably add Thunderball in that.
Yeah, Thunderball.
Enjoyed.
It's just weird that Thunderball was basically remade 5 years later as Diamonds Are Forever.
Yes, that is true.
Isn't there some debate as to whether or not Thunderball technically falls into the canon of Bond?
No, that's Never Say Never Again.
Never Say Never Again.
Which Connery played, being younger than Roger Moore at the time.
Yeah, but Pat and I disagree. That to me does not count as a Bond movie.
See, I think it does. And I think it's pretty good.
It's not a Broccoli movie.
It has Kim Basinger in it.
If it wasn't done by the Broccoli's, then it doesn't count.
What's the recent Bond movie that you like that no one else does, Tim? It wasn't.
Recent one
I like Quantum of Solace.
Oh, you like Quantum of Solace, right?
I just don't think it's bad. I think it's okay.
Probably the worst or second worst Bond movie.
No, the one that just came out, Spectre, is one of the worst Bond movies.
Awful. Spectre's not as awful as Quantum of Solace.
Yes, it is. It's way worse.
It's up there with A View to a Kill in terms of awfulness.
A View to a Kill's not even close to being the worst Bond or the Roger Moore one. Moonraker is the absolute worst Bond movie.
Well, part of the reason Moonraker's is that the stakes are too high, right?
Because he's in
Bond
space.
movies, when the stakes are high, usually are no good.
Die Another Day is really bad too, because
Die Another Day is
it
terrible.
deals with the same thing. It also has Bond surfing in like North Korea on the side of his invisible Ford car door. The fact that he was just driving Ford in that movie was just.
But like in A View to a Kill, like they're driving on the wrong side of the road half the time, and like the wheels are like it's just so unwatchable.
I even like,
but it does have Christopher Walken in it. Could you?
Who is excellent as a villain?
Well,
by the
could
way.
you sort of replicate how Christopher Walken talked to Bond as a villain?
Well, you see, Mr. Bond, I notice here on this computer that it says you're licensed to kill. So watch as I throw you out of the Zeppelin. That's pretty much what he says.
Yep.
Top Cat does it again.
I still can't believe we have the budget to bring in Christopher Walken for as many
I know.
episodes as we do.
I'm surprised he didn't mention he's got this watch.
I think we've
My
had this
point
debate
is,
on this podcast before, but
I
like,
really get annoyed at the principle of just when
just-
somebody passes away that we have to honor everything they've done. If that's fine to honor them, but let's not pretend they are better than they were. Let's accurately honor them. You know, Roger Moore is probably the second best Bond or the third best Bond or whatever, but he's not the best Bond. He is not James Bond in your mind's eye. And I think it's a disservice to his memory and a disservice to, one of the, if not the most important movie series of all time, one of them, to say that he's the best, because he isn't.
Well, you're a big Timothy Dalton guy.
Yeah, because I like the brooding, darker Bond, which is why I like Daniel Craig's Bond quite a bit.
yeah, which is why I think
why I'm not so attracted to the way Roger Moore plays it, because I think Roger Moore, and to a lesser extent Connery, play it a little too campy, and I prefer a little darker James Bond.
that was the style, though. You even look at like Adam West Batman of a very similar era. I don't know. I skew towards the more fun Bond because I think of Bond as a fun guy, or just not even in the sense of fun, but just sort of like
Lighthearted.
Quippy. Like he realizes he's above most of this, which is why I enjoyed Skyfall as a movie. But I remember even saying to you, and I think again we've had this debate on the podcast before, but like I like Skyfall as a film, but I feel like it suffers too much. And to use like a similar Batman analogy here, like I feel like it's too Christopher Nolan-y. I feel like it's too dark.
I agree. That's
Like,
why
it's a good movie, but like
I think Casino Royale is way better.
Yeah.
There is just one scene, as Tim, in that movie that is just ridiculous. That
Yeah, the poker scene is
the poker scene is so bad.
and it makes you suspicious if they're so off about poker on that. What else are they really off about on things that we don't know the ins and outs of?
Yeah, well, I think that I forget who said it. I think it might have been Chuck Klosterman may have brought it up at one point about how everyone always talked about how The Wire was so realistic, but then season 5 came around and it dealt with like, here's how a newsroom works. And like, that's not really how a newsroom works.
Yeah.
So if they're off about that,
yeah,
could
do
they
we
be off
really
about-
know how a Baltimore precinct works?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's the key to making television series. Is just I know they say relatability is the thing, but maybe just make your series about things that no one else knows how they work.
Well, it's funny because, I mean, I think that was one of the things about The Sopranos, too, that you have to go into a world that people don't know much about. Then you tell them the story about how this world works, and then
Yeah.
you relate that story of how real people live in this world.
Well, I think that's why I had such like a hard time, and it was such an idiot detector show with the Newsroom, where
Newsroom's
when
so
I
bad.
knew people
Tim's
who
favorite.
worked in newsrooms who
Hate
liked
that
that show, it was like I can understand people who have no idea how this stuff works, but you work in a newsroom and you like this show. God.
And listen, I'm usually pretty in on Sorkin stuff.
Yeah.
Just 'cause I enjoy watching it. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
He writes some great dialogue. I don't want to put that past him.
however,
Best season
my,
of
my,
the
my
West Wing was the one he didn't write when they brought the Republicans in to write it.
what?
The best season of the West Wing is when they had the real Republican strategists come in to write that season.
Tim, no one thinks that any season after Sorkin left of The West Wing is as good as any of the Sorkin
The only
seasons.
watchable one.
That is you on an island by yourself.
Okay, well, that's kind of the point of this show.
I guess so. That's
is
that's
true.
a bad take.
Okay, well,
anyway,
it's still a
the
bad
main
take.
problem with the Newsroom is just the retroactive journalism that really
Oh, yeah.
bothered me. It's
Oh,
like,
man, tell
we
me
got.
about it.
Oh, here's the situation that happened 2 years ago. We know how this turns out, and this is why we're right at the time. It's like,
And
come
then
on.
season 2 turns on this massive error that they make about chemical weapons, and then season 3 is just basically they just shrug their shoulders and go, oh, whatever. Like that network wouldn't exist if they made that kind of mistake in real life. It's like when Dan Rather destroyed his entire career by making things up about George W. Bush.
Or
You
they were
recover from
just
this
a
sort of
year
thing.
too early before nothing about journalism mattered anymore, and
Yeah,
maybe they were a
exactly.
precursor.
And there's that too. One
Maybe-
thing I also had noted here about Bonds, and you can't have a good Bond movie without a good Bond song. So I'm glad Pat brought up songs, because all the best movies have some of the best songs.
That's another detractor from Casino Royale. I like the Casino Royale song.
You don't like the Casino Royale song?
See, I like the Casino Royale song, but it's a lot like Live and Let Die. I like Live and Let Die, the song. They're not Bond songs.
Yeah, they're just sort of songs.
They're songs that are good, but they're not Bond songs.
Well, what's a Bond song? If Shirley Bassey doesn't sing it, it's not a song?
It needs to sound in that vein, though.
Soulful, sort of. I feel like it helps when...
Like, the Quantum of Solace song that Jack Black and Alicia Keys did sounds more like a Bond song, although it's not as good of a song.
Adele's Skyfall, I think, is excellent.
Agreed, but that sounds like a Bond song.
I think Carly Simon's Nobody Does It Better is a Bond song. The Duran Duran's and A View to a Kill is fantastic. It might be the best of that. Maybe a top Bond song.
Forgot Duran Duran wrote a Bond song.
It's an excellent Bond song.
But even Madonna's Die Another Day was getting at like sort of the Bond sound. It was just a bad song.
I mean, nothing is better than Goldfinger.
Goldfinger's the best song. Goldfinger's the best song. Goldfinger's the best
one.
movie. Goldfinger has the best everything.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that. I mean, I think if you're not putting Goldfinger first, I think you're being very contrarian, or you have to really make your case hard. As much as I would like to not put it first, I couldn't possibly not.
As much as I strive to be those things.
As much as I, am looking for, reasons to sort of fight against conventional wisdom, if it's necessary, it is the best movie. He's got all the best parts.
It is. It's the most memorable of all the movies, and it's not super long. That was the thing that killed the last Bond.
Agreed.
so long.
It was like 5 hours long. It was like, oh man, like this is a Bond movie. It should be 98 minutes.
Quentin Tarantino has this theory on Bond movies. I hope one day they let him make a Bond movie.
He really wants to.
That would be very interesting.
He really wants to.
His point is they need to go back to being retro. Bond works in the Cold War era.
Yeah.
And what he wanted to do, and his theory is he would make a Bond that is set in the Cold War era. And I think that would be a perfect approach to his movies. I really hope they give him a chance.
I do like how Tim set that up. Like it was a little bit more complex than it had to be. Like his point is Bond should be in the Cold War era. So what he wanted to do is put Bond in the Cold War era. I thought there was going to be like a very specific storyline he was going to throw out there. Like, okay. No, that makes sense though. I would be 100% in on a Tarantino Bond film.
Yeah, they don't like, because Spielberg and George Lucas wanted to make a Bond movie in the 80s, and they wouldn't let them.
Well,
So
no,
that's why they ended up making Indiana Jones. That was their alternative to James Bond.
Yeah, they're very conservative with the people they have do these movies for obvious reasons, right? This is the most important and meaningful franchise in movies, in pictures. So
Jurassic Park.
That's also not true, by the way.
it's not even close.
What is the most influential series?
Star Wars.
It's not the most influential.
Star Wars is
It's
the
not
biggest
even- it's
and
not
most
even the
important
best,
franchise
but it's the
in
most
movies.
important.
No, Star Wars is the most
It is
important.
movies.
I guess it's hard to argue that. I sort of joked about it a second ago, but I feel like Jurassic Park, just in the sense of CGI and how much that, although Star Wars has an equal claim.
They're all better and greater franchises, but I think Bond, because it spans 7 decades, and
Well, just because it's
longevity doesn't mean anything.
No, but it's not just longevity. It connects people to film over multiple generations. They all have
But
a
Star Wars is now
similar
doing
spoke
that
to
too.
the wheel. So it's just so much more important than. I mean, Star Wars is the only thing that comes close, but Star Wars had movies that sucked so badly. Like the thing about the bad Bonds is, even though
I don't feel like there's a
or Octopussy
worse-
are bad.
There is no Star Wars movie that is worse
Well-
than Moonraker. Even
Are
episode
you kidding
1.
me? I would invite
Do you
you
think
to watch
episode 1's the worst?
episodes
I think episode
1,
2 is
2,
the
and
worst.
3 again.
I don't even remember episode 2.
I think that's why
all you
it's
need to
actually
know.
worse than
It has
episode
clones.
1.
There's too many clones.
No, that's the problem with episode 2 is it has nothing to do. It's a love story. That's all it is. It's like a really long and boring love story. Then the side story to that is Palpatine's rise through like the Republic, and it's like I don't care about this either. It's
This is it.
so
Where
boring.
Even though Moonraker was no good, you can think of 20 scenes from that movie.
No, I can't. The only thing I remember about Moonraker is they
on
had
the
laser
moon.
guns and they went to space. That's it.
Well,
Jaws,
you could say though
like,
Moonraker's
it is
importance
Jaws.
is that Moonraker probably was pretty much the inspiration for Austin Powers 2.
Yeah, but I don't like Austin
Well,
Powers
kinda,
2.
It
Wow,
totally
really?
was.
I liked Austin Powers 2.
I'm all about Austin Powers 1. That's it.
Fair. I think Austin Powers 2 was okay.
And I've watched them.
After that,
I've watched
no.
them recently too.
Moonraker's the last Shirley Bassey song movie too, I believe.
Well, then buy the fucking soundtrack.
I would. I don't.
Is it
now
sad that I
defending
don't
movie, I
know
don't
the
even think
song
it's that good, but
to Moonraker,
like,
so I'm just
even
singing
Bad
Moonraker
Bonds
in the,
are
in
better
the
than-
Goldfinger? Moonraker!
even bad Bonds are good Bonds. That was my point.
Yeah, that's because you like it.
I think
that works. It's like when I watched season 8 of Entourage. Like, I know it's not good, but I'm watching it because I liked Entourage.
And at a certain point, too, you're pot committed.
Yeah.
That gets me a lot.
Moonraker, here's a moon that orbits around the earth. The Goldfinger song is so good, even Frasier sang it.
It's true.
When he was real depressed because the piano player only knew 2 songs. Happy Birthday, which obviously they couldn't clear the rights to, although they could now because those people died and it's open season on Happy
now.
Birthday,
Yep.
and Goldfinger. All right, Tim.
R.I.P. to Roger Moore. He is still one of the most important people in film, and he will be missed.
I don't know if he's
One of the most important people
He
in
played
film.
the most iconic character in film, as far as I'm concerned. And he played it more than anyone else has.
So wait, so now your argument is, okay, fair. But again, I feel like doing something more than other people is not necessarily the pedigree of which we should derive importance from.
I agree with you completely. But he still did play, I think, the most important role in film, and he played it more than anyone. And that means something.
I guess.
What do you got next?
What do I have next? So I have sort of a moral dilemma with this Tim Hortons by my house. I have these liquor and burger ranks that are flying around the internet that are frustrating me.
Okay, let's go.
Like waiters who are being mean to me.
Oh no, let's go there. Why are the waiters being mean to you, Tim?
So, like many bachelors, every now and then I just don't want to eat at home. I want to go out and have a real meal and not like have a meal like a fast food restaurant. So a couple nights ago,
do you go eat by yourself?
Of course.
In a served restaurant?
Yeah, I don't care.
Do people feel bad for you?
Well, we're going to come on to what is making me angry about this.
Do they think that like you're ill?
Do they constantly start your meals by asking you if your entire party is here?
No, that doesn't happen. Although
But yes, it does happen.
So I'm not going to name the name of the restaurant because it's not the problem of the chain. The food was actually very good.
It's like he
Is
doesn't
it
want
the Tim Hortons by your house?
He doesn't want to name the name of the restaurant because it's some garbage restaurant.
Perkins.
It's like
there are
Applebee's.
There are no garbage restaurants that are chains. Anyway.
Oh yeah, Tim is also big on chains over like independent restaurants.
I'll admit, when my family took a
neat.
road trip through the States when I was 10, and it was the first time I got to go to an Applebee's, and I loved Applebee's for like 3 years.
Would you ever go to Applebee's now?
Sure, I probably
No.
would.
Absolutely.
It's gross.
I mean,
As a
look, I'm
rule,
not
it's
I'm not a
better to go-
proud man when it comes to food. If you can fry it, I'll probably eat it.
The places with lots of spots means that the food has been tested by professionals and that people like it around the world and that it's clean and has very high standards. And so, one of the things President Trump is right about is exactly that kind of stuff, that the more commercialized food production restaurants and companies are, the safer and better food you're likely going to get. But we're off track here. So I'm not going to name the place. I went out to dinner. Today is Friday. So I went out on Wednesday night to dinner. And as soon as I got to the restaurant, I went by myself, and the not the waitress, she's not, I wouldn't call them a maitre
Hostess?
d' at this kind of place, but
Hostess?
the person who stands at the front where it says please
Hostess?
wait.
The maitre d'?
I wouldn't call them the maitre d'. It's not really what I think of that as someone like at a fine dining restaurant, which
It's called a hostess or a host.
or a
Or
host
some
or a
person who's mean to Tim?
Well, she was just flippant with me, because she said, is it just are you by yourself? And I sort of said, yeah, it's just me, and she gave me some attitude I didn't like about it. I was going to say, gee, do you see people behind me that are with me? Like, I didn't say anything, but I felt like that. I just was annoyed by the way I was being spoken to. And so I was taken to a table, sort of onto the side. It's not where I wanted to be, but I didn't feel like complaining about wanting to be by the window. And the server waited longer to get to me than other tables with more people that had been seated after me. He got to me after that. And he only came to see me once to ask me how my food was, and he came to the other tables a couple of times, asked them how theirs was.
Can I cut you off for just a second? Because I do want to ask you a question about this. I personally hate it when the
When they
waiter
come
comes
over.
by and asks me how my meal is.
Yeah, they're usually getting the sea bass, like, come over here, I need something.
Yeah.
If I want to deal with it.
Exactly. I feel
I'm
like
not
once
so
you
sure
give me
I
my
agree or
food, I don't
disagree
need you
with
anymore
that.
till the bill.
But the fact that I wasn't worth going to see more than once, and these other people were worth seeing more than once, bothered me. And they never came by to refill my water, and they refilled everyone else's. Like, it seemed like they were going to the table to fill other people's water, and they weren't doing that to me. And, yeah, it was just a very unpleasant situation. And I just wondered, this is not the first time I've experienced service like this by myself at various restaurants that you go into. I just wonder whether there's an implicit bias of these people against...
Yes, no,
yeah, because you're not going to get as big a tip.
That's awful.
These people are playing for tips. They're playing for commission here. If they have a table of 6 people, that tip is going to be bigger than the one with just one person.
Although,
That's
a table
not
of 6
the way
people,
to
sometimes
run
the
a
tip is built
business.
in, so it might not even matter.
That's not the way to run a business. Every customer is supposed to be treated co-equally.
Maybe, and this could actually be a thing.
Maybe
like, you know
that's
how,
in the mission statement.
Yeah, maybe. But you know how there's that thing where it's like, if you're reading the menu, they won't come over because they assume that you haven't made your decision
Yes,
yet.
you close the menu before so they know you're ready.
Yeah,
any
so there's
person's
that. But
not a
maybe
savage knows
they
that.
legitimately think because they weren't the one who sat you that they keep looking over and going, oh, whoever's with him must be in the washroom.
No,
I'll
this
wait
guy
till they come
couldn't have
back.
cared less about me. He just figured, he's just some guy by himself listening to his iPad or iPhone. Sorry, at the table, and I can just ignore him.
Yeah.
Annoyed by that.
Yeah, listen, the fact that there's more people at another
It's the tip
table,
thing,
it's the
yeah.
tip thing. It's 100% the tip thing.
Well, I would have left a very good tip. I didn't because I felt personally offended. By the way, I was
maybe
treated by
they
the
know you
so-called
there
maitre
too as the
d'.
bad tipping guy.
I didn't want to have to be that person, but the way that the so-called maitre d' treated me with some attitude, and the way I was seated and basically ignored, but the food was good, so I would probably
What
go back.
percentage did you end up leaving in your outrage? Still
I
15,
always
right?
believe it was a rule 15%, but this time I left 10 because I was angry.
See, most people tip like 20%.
Okay, well, I don't. I tip 15%. That's what the tax is. That's what
See,
I tip.
the word probably got around. That
Oh,
you're
yeah,
a
it got
bad
around,
you're
did
a
it?
bad tipper. Watch out for this guy with the weird fro and bad mustache. He's a bad tipper.
Yeah,
I've been
okay.
bringing this
So-
up lately. I don't know why it keeps coming up, but I've told the story a couple times now. Of I know you told me this website existed 3-4 years ago, but there was the website around Toronto.
YouPorn?
Well, sure, of course.
Pornjizz.com?
Now it's UJizz.
Oh, UJizz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
That's Tim's
no,
favorite site.
But
God.
that no, there was the site that for girls on like dating sites. Where they would post the picture or the name of the person they brought home, and then there's like criteria
Oh,
that
yeah.
were ranked, and you were on that site.
I was.
And the cleanliness of your apartment was kind of their main takeaway.
Top notch.
I wonder if there's some sort of like server website, and Tim's picture is like the top of the website.
I totally forgot about
This
that
guy
website
sucks.
until you just
it's a great website.
It is. Yeah. So so it was like if you bet someone on Tinder, they would post your picture to the site and then rank you. Quality of apartment, quality of date, good sex, bad sex, good looking, bad looking, that kind of thing. Personality traits. I did great on that.
Yeah.
I wish I almost feel like, getting back on the
back
market,
out there.
see if I can up my rating some more.
Sounds like a very Black Mirror-y situation.
Why?
Just that kind of rating system just seems something dehumanizing about it all. I don't approve of that at all, actually.
Why?
That should not be allowed.
What do you mean not allowed? You're someone who
It should
thinks
not
that
be allowed.
What do you mean not
Dehumanizing.
allowed? You think people should be banned?
No, I'm not saying the state should ban it. I'm just saying people should have enough common sense and humanity and dignity not to engage in that type of chicanery.
You're
Those
just
people
worried
should
that
be
you got a
ashamed.
low
Yeah,
ranking
you're-
on waiter.com.
Yeah, you're just -5. Never serve this guy.
Yeah, well, apparently. This is not the first time I've been treated with disrespect.
I
Again,
feel like
which-
your
what am-
headphones play a factor too.
well,
Like I think
what am
headphones
supposed to do?
signify that you're
Stare
like
at the
closed off
wall
from the
like
world.
a
You're not ready to
loser?
talk to people.
What?
I'm by myself at the table. What am I going to do? Stare at the wall like a loser and do nothing?
I'm not
Well,
saying.
I mean, you're already eating by yourself at a restaurant.
So, that never happens?
Listen,
What am I supposed to
restaurants
do? I'm
are
only allowed
for
to go to a
multiple
restaurant
people,
with somebody
Tim.
else?
I'll
realize
give you
restaurants
credit.
for
Like
the
I would
province.
not sit in a restaurant by myself. I will go to a restaurant and get something to go and then leave with the food. But I would not sit in a restaurant by myself.
I'm not ashamed of being there by myself.
Tim, do single people eat crackers? We don't know. In fact,
Honestly, we don't care.
We don't want to
wanna
know.
I don't mind doing that or going to the movies by myself. It never bothers me.
I will go to the movies by myself.
Yeah, that's fine
What's
because
the
it's dark.
same thing?
No,
No one
it
cares.
is absolutely not the same.
And you're only there for the purposes of watching the movie. Where at a restaurant, you're there to have conversation and like.
I'm not there to have a conversation. I'm there to have dinner. If I wanted a conversation,
Then
I
take the
could go
dinner
somewhere
home.
else.
Get it to go.
You know, I prefer dinner time where there's almost no talking. You know, some families, people do not speak at dinner. It's impolite to speak at dinner.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, in the fucking 50s, Tim.
I think there's something to be said about that. In fact, I'm pro not speaking during dinner. I'm pro conversation between courses, before meal, after meal. But
How
while
many
the
course
dinner itself
dinners
is
do
being
you
served,
have?
pardon me?
How many course dinners
Yeah,
do
this
you
is
have?
pretty rich coming from a guy who owns one plate.
Well, I'm not. That's not my point. My point is,
I mean,
by
do you have to
myself, I'm not
wash
having
the plate between courses? Is that why there's so much time for conversation?
You know exactly what I'm talking about. There's something impolite about conversing while you're eating. I think it's polite to talk before, eat, and then talk afterwards.
Basically, what you want to have for dinner is like that scene in American Beauty after like eventually Kevin Spacey just flips out because they're listening to like the terrible music, just staring at each other.
I think of that scene like in The Sound of Music where they're all at dinner. Nobody is allowed to talk during dinner.
Yeah, so
Nazi Germany is always a great example for.
Here are great examples that I think that Nazi Germany could have on us today. How they eat dinner. Very efficient, very quiet, or you have to go.
That is a misinterpretation of that film. His whole gig is that he's against the Nazis.
Yeah, but
he rips the Nazi flag in half when they hang it on his house.
No one cares about The Sound of Music anymore, Tim. It's not 1940.
Okay, but you're mischaracterizing the film, so I had to set the record straight.
Tim, I will set the record straight too. Tim, pro-Nazi behavior.
No, I am pro-silence at dinner. I think that's.
I am for silence everywhere.
It's dignified and graceful. We live in a society where everyone has to speak their mind about everything all the time.
This is what this show is about that you're doing.
Nobody is comfortable with their own thoughts anymore. No one's comfortable with just being in silence. They have to fill that air through awkward chit-chat. I prefer, when people are eating, to concentrate on your meal. Someone worked hard to cook it for you. Eat the meal. Don't converse and waste time. That's my position.
Especially because you have to concentrate, so you don't cut your finger off with your food, because if you're talking, that might happen.
Well, it's hard to talk to when you've shoved as many nugs in your mouth as possible.
Oh, please.
All right, what do you got next?
So, speaking of nugs, I have a moral dilemma about this Tim Hortons by my house.
All right, what is it?
So, it's one of those Tim Hortons that's attached to a Wendy's.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
See where I'm going with this.
Okay.
So, this is a Tim Hortons it's the only one that's close to me. And the people there know me, and they know exactly what I order, so I don't have to even order it. And the coffee, people who are coffee drinkers know that not every Tim Hortons is consistent.
I like to order in silence.
Some are better than
others.
No
more talking. Just coffee.
This Tim Hortons is
I feel
very
like you're
good.
German slowly going into Austrian Schwarzenegger territory.
Well, I mean, Austria is little Germany.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk more about whatever the hell you're talking about, or should I continue with
some of us like to listen, Tim. You, not one of those people.
All right, fine. Why don't you tell your story? I'm sure it's more interesting.
No, it's done now. You were just talking over it.
Okay.
It was about little Germany.
So sorry to inconvenience you.
So what's the quandary here? Is it that the Wendy's is too enticing to be in the same building with?
No, I mean the fact that you've put a kibosh on Wendy's and that you've banned Wendy's and Tim Hortons are the same company in Canada. So then you should be giving up Tim Hortons too.
Am I only able to go to Tim Hortons that are solo Tim Hortons?
That's still owned by the same company, so it's all the same company.
But they're not the actual owner of that franchise. Probably owns both the Tim Hortons and the Wendy's. I go to another one, it's different. The money's going to a person who just owns the Tim Hortons, if you know what I mean.
But all that money still, the franchising fees and everything like that, the money that they have to pay, it still has to go back to that parent company, which is Wendy's.
This even more puritanical view than I am, which was that I think I have to cut this Tim Hortons out of my life for a year. You're saying I got to cut them all out.
Yeah, well, I'm not a psycho, so I'm going to continue to go there. But for you, listen, you made a very big moral judgment on this.
This is why I'm bringing this up.
Well, then you can't go to any Tim Hortons.
See, I think that I can, but I can't.
Because you want to.
No, I don't want to go to this. I want to be faithful to the pledge, but also not needlessly sort of ascetic.
What's your sort of connection to Tim Hortons? Is it like a Canadiana thing for you, or do you specifically like the kind of coffee?
I think it's right next to his place.
Well, there's a lot of things going on here. First, it's the connection to the place, and on campus, there's 3, so it's the most easy place to get coffee. B, it's the best tasting coffee in Canada. And C, I've grown up my whole life drinking it, so I have a real affinity for it. And I'm getting annoyed at Starbucks more and more every day, so I just don't want to go there unless I absolutely have to. So I'm running out of places.
Sidebar on Starbucks.
Don't worry about it.
Tim gives them a fake name every time for no apparent reason.
They don't need to know my name.
I've thought about doing that.
It's because he doesn't want them knowing his name.
Okay. I was going to say, I do that sometimes because I get tired of people bungling my name. But I will say, I only care because sometimes when it's so bad, I don't understand who they're calling for. But I get people like, their name will be something and like, oh God, they added an E to my name. And it's like, the only reason that's there is so they can identify you and call to you. I don't care how they spelt it, as long as they pronounce it right. It doesn't fucking matter.
Well,
but people get so upset, like, they spelled my name wrong.
are taking lists of my name not to serve me well, maybe it's a good thing I am giving them fake names.
So why is it
one step ahead?
Yeah, but you just came to this realization about these websites where you're on there as a bad tipper. Why do you do the Starbucks fake name to begin with?
Because they don't need to know who I am.
Why?
I don't
What's
need them
the
knowing
difference?
my name. I'm a private citizen. I'm not like Kramer and Seinfeld, where I want people to wear name tags and say hello to each other
To
everywhere
be
they
fair, Tim does use his fake alias, Tim Anderson, quite a bit, so we know he has an affinity for fake names.
go. No, I just come up with a random name when I go in there. I go, I'm
You're
gonna
like-
be Bruce today, or John today, or whatever. I don't care. They don't need to know who I am.
You're like Larry in that Incest Survivor episode of Curb when he gets confronted by the lady he met at the Incest Survivor. It's like, sometimes I just call myself Thor. You know, that's what I tell people.
Well, this is the thing, because I don't know if there's a Starbucks that you consistently go to enough, but you just said that the people at the Tim Hortons by your house know your order by heart. Don't you think if you went to the same Starbucks enough times, they would know that you're giving them weird fake names all the time?
I'm not going to any Starbucks nearly as often as I'm going to this Tim Hortons for them to know my order.
I mean, I was a cashier. I can tell you it takes about 3 times for you to be there before I know who you are. So if you've gone to the same Starbucks more than 3 times...
Shake up my order as well.
I don't know.
I know. I go to the same person. There's a Tim Hortons like literally 30 seconds away from this seat.
Fresh biscuits.
And they always wave to you and say, bye. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, all right.
They're very...
good for a wave.
Coffee at Tim Hortons is actually quite good, I will say.
Oh, I've heard varying opinions on this Tim Hortons.
Well, the few times I've had it there, I thought it was very good.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, as I said, when you drink enough coffee, especially from Tim Hortons, you begin to get a sense of the good ones and the bad ones.
See, I think your claim that Tim Hortons has the best coffee in Canada is somewhat ridiculous. McDonald's using the old Tim Hortons, like, grains or whatever it is. Their, like, formula for making coffee.
Okay, maybe we have to do a ranking here, because, I mean, the show's all about making lists. We should make a list.
I don't drink coffee,
Yeah,
so I'm not going to be really helpful in this conversation.
No, what's
that fits in.
well,
I do think coffee's a genius move, though. I think Subway just added coffee.
everyone should have coffee.
Well, it's like it's the simplest thing
hold
to
on.
make.
Why in the name of
It's
Christ?
the
Oh,
easiest
sorry.
thing to buy in bulk.
Why in
and
the name
it's
of God would I go to Subway to get my coffee?
well, because here's the thing,
Because
though.
they serve
Coffee,
breakfast, Tim.
Yeah, and coffee is the only thing in the world that like it's basically like selling a drug, except people don't judge you for it like cigarettes. Like I know enough people like, I can't start my day without coffee. At 5 p.m. I need a coffee to get
I
me going
can't
for the
I
rest of
can't
the
take
day.
a shit until I have a coffee.
Yeah,
it just
like,
runs it right through.
Again, it's literally like cocaine, but you don't get judged for it. It's great.
And it's less expensive than cocaine.
A lot less expensive.
And easier to find.
Yeah, because
Tim
Subway
Hortons
has
coffee
it now.
or McDonald's coffee is good. It's
There you go,
not as good
Tim.
as Hortons
Do you have a
coffee.
Subway closer than a Tim Hortons? Problem
They're
solved.
You can get-
basically across the pathway from each other.
You can get yourself a Subway Club card.
Well, yesterday when I was out for my walk, I ended up buying one at A&W, which is also next door, because I wasn't sure whether I could still buy from this Tim Hortons anymore.
Tim lives in a mini mall.
I don't
Apparently, yeah.
live in a mini mall. I live near a strip where there's a ton of conveniences and grocery stores,
Oh,
some of which I can still go to.
So you
And
so you live in something that's just like a mini mall?
Is just like a mini mall.
Hey.
hey.
I was trying to figure out how we're gonna get
Everyone
there.
knows that commercial.
What's that?
Everybody knows that commercial.
No,
No,
Gary
they
and I
don't.
were talking
They
about
don't.
this before
They do.
we came on, about what you think that people know and what they don't know. The only reason that you know half the things, it's like when you say movies or like weird obscure skits that you think that everyone has seen, the only reason that you think that people have seen it is because I've shown you, so you know a person who has also seen it, therefore you think that everyone has seen it.
Hold on. That commercial has been on Family Guy that's been parodied.
Okay. People still don't know what it is.
This is not like watching some Terrence Malick movie. Like, people have seen this.
It's an internet video.
Yeah, but like when you put it into the class of one things that have been parodied on Family Guy, as if they ever stick to the storyline.
No, I know, but I'm saying that it's not so obscure that no
It's
one's
not
ever
completely
heard of it.
obscure, but like it's obscure in the way like in 5 years from now, if you ask some like 15-year-old if they know what Chocolate Rain is, like sure.
If you ask anyone now what Chocolate
Yeah.
Rain was.
I have students who don't know I have students who don't know what the Heritage Minutes are.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well, they haven't played those. I haven't seen a Heritage Minute in a long time.
It was very distressing.
Anyway, back to coffee for a second.
Sure.
Tim was talking about how things should be banned and all of this because he wants the state to control what you do and what you don't do. That's Tim's primary stance.
People should stop themselves from doing it.
I think that people should be banned from putting creamers, milk, and sugar in their coffees. You don't like it? Go buy a Red Bull.
I agree. Develop your palate and grow up and drink real coffee or drink something else. Go drink a Red Bull.
You know who won World War II, Garion, and beat the Nazis? Not people who were taking double doubles. Black coffee in the trenches.
Exactly.
That's what
You think
real
the
men
Russians
drink.
at the Battle of Stalingrad were putting cream and sugar in their coffee? I don't think so.
Man, Tim just loves his World
The only
War
thing they were
II
putting in their
references.
coffee was a little bit of vodka.
Do you suggest that people do that, or do you suggest they put in some Baileys?
Call this one close to Bailey's.
Now, there's one that people like. That's
Yeah, it's way out.
that's out in left field.
Whew, yeah.
But
Yeah, I
Tim
feel
would
like that
argue
is- that
everyone
was-
knows about Old Greg.
I think that was a little more obscure, but I do think people do know about it.
No.
People do. There are people who do know about it. Yes.
I would say you're far more likely to get, someone from England to probably bite on that. I feel like in North America, the presence is probably not overly wide.
Well, it is now because we've mentioned it on this show.
That would be like saying that people know what the Pat Mayo Hour is. They don't.
I think they do.
No, they don't.
Yeah, well,
If
people
that
on
was the
Twitter
case,
know.
I'd be making millions.
We'd have that MasterCard money.
Did you, this is off topic, but that's the way this show works. Did you see the photo of Russell Crowe I tweeted yesterday?
Oh, I had this written down on my page.
he wrote this
Russell
down.
Crowe. I was like, what is so shocking to you about fat Russell Crowe? He's old.
Looks like he ate Ridley Scott.
Do you know what happened to Russell?
Gladiator.
Listen, Russell Crowe used to get a lot of exercise when he was fighting around the world.
I feel like he just got really depressed after Tugga tried to kill himself. And
Like Maximus only eats at the banquet table now.
well, how old was he when he did that movie? Like in his 40s?
Yeah, no, okay. I looked it up because Russell Crowe is 53 now.
Oh, okay.
And
He looks a lot older than 53.
Gladiator came out in 2000. So that was 17
he was in his
years ago.
mid-30s,
So he was in his
okay.
mid-30s.
Yeah. 40. 38, 39, something like that, yeah.
Well,
Do you know how math works?
Well, I'm just trying to, off the top of my head, try to shut up. 37.
also, these photos circulate all like do you remember a couple years back there was Fat Vin Diesel? And
Yeah,
that was
but
a big
listen,
thing, was
like,
him on like a balcony
He
in
was already
somewhere in
looking
South America.
real
He had a
hefty in
gut.
that terrible movie he was in, the Good Guys or whatever. The nice
I
guys.
did-
Oh, the-
we
that's-
also
yeah.
talked about that with Derek, who's switching the show before you got on the line, how great that movie is.
That movie is awful. That is not a good movie.
Why?
He is so bad in that movie. It brings the whole movie down.
He
And he wasn't
is
nearly
so
as-
bad?
It is a very... Oh, that's a bad movie.
Such a good movie.
That's a bad take.
No, it's an awful... I would invite you to rewatch that movie.
I
And
have.
I have. Well, I've
just
rewatched.
throw
I
your hands
believe.
up
I
like this.
rewatch it anytime it's on.
Oh,
I
no,
can
that-
jump in at any point and I'm good to go.
That movie stinks to high heavens. I'm sorry.
I don't think there's a weak link in that movie. Even the little
Russell
girl's
Crowe is
fantastic.
awful in that movie.
I don't know.
There isn't a scene he's in where you're like, oh, I'm enjoying watching this at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, if there were cocktail forks by me, I would gouge out my eyes rather than have to watch that movie again.
It's aggressive.
Like, God, it's a bad movie.
Well, it's not an Inarritu film.
Well, at least those are complex and challenging and thoughtful for the most part.
No, they're just faux pretentious and they suck in intellectuals like you.
Yeah, okay. But Russell Crowe, my point was he was getting pretty hefty when that movie came out. Was it probably almost a year ago now?
Yeah,
maybe.
so if you've already identified that, why is this picture so surprising?
It is startling to see him in that condition, considering what
Maybe
he looked
he's
like.
about to do a picture about Dom DeLuise. We don't know.
Tim
Wow.
would love that because Tim loves Dom DeLuise hats.
They're not called that. I call them English racing caps, and they're very cool.
God.
Get your English racing cap, you get your moo-moo. Everything's good.
What else do you have?
What else do I have here? I have people yelling. Well, we have this thing from last week where I get real upset at people who use their Wi-Fi at coffee shops.
Yeah, let's do that. Why do you
Okay.
get so upset about people who use Wi-Fi
Well,
at coffee shops?
the backstory to this story is that there was a report in the news about
The Huey Lewis?
sports.
Scott.
Oh, this is it.
So Tim was reading a report in the news about Wi-Fi in coffee shops. It just said, coffee shops, skizzle me timbers!
Please, I want to tell my story. So, there was a report in the newspaper about various coffee
It almost
shops.
evolves into his walking when he can't breathe.
Various coffee shops that are removing Wi-Fi. Now, their reasoning is
They put LSD in all the drinks, and Tim just had some.
their reasoning is to promote conversation. Now, I
Oh,
don't
okay,
share
so we're
their
back
goal.
to this.
So I don't share their goal whatsoever. But what I do share is eliminating Wi-Fi at coffee shops because The worst thing you can come across when you go to a coffee shop is that guy or that gal with their laptop out, quote-unquote, working or, quote-unquote, writing something while they're at Tim Hortons or Starbucks or whatever place they're going to get their avocado hollowed-out latte these days.
That's what you love. You love avocados.
Yes, millennials are ruining everything.
Also, I used to write my columns at the Starbucks by my house. It was the only place I could go to write.
I don't like that.
Why?
People should write
Why
at
do
their
you care?
offices or in their homes. That is where writing takes place.
Can't write at the office.
How are you to dictate where writing takes place? Writing is one of the very few mediums in this world you can do anywhere.
I appreciate it can be done anywhere. I'm saying where it ought to be done.
Why? Why is it ought to be done somewhere?
Coffee shops are for consuming coffee. They are not your private place to work. You want to go work somewhere that isn't your home or your office? Go to a library where it's quiet. Go work there.
See, I feel like scamming businesses for all they're worth. Like if all it takes for you to get an hour or two of free Wi-Fi is to buy a small coffee, like
you know what? If the companies want to charge for the Wi-Fi, I guess live with that.
But then no one would go there.
Good. I don't want people going there and working on their laptops while nursing their coffee for 4 hours.
Is this about like the fact that they're taking up seats? Like, are you the person who's trying to sit down in a coffee shop and it's inside of Tim Hortons and just sit and maybe talk to some of the old fogies in your town about their days and such?
I mean, my preference would be just get your coffee and leave.
So then what do you care?
Stay there and quietly consume
You know what?
it.
Honestly, you know what this is all leading to? Is that you should just go to like these small indie coffee shops where there's no place to sit because they're in the hole in a wall. It's not Tim Hortons, so you wouldn't be giving money to the Wendy's Corporation. There's nowhere to sit. They don't have Wi-Fi because they can't afford it.
But then he'd have to deal with millennials.
That's true.
Well, this is the great issue. This is why this is the problem. Is I don't share the goal of increased conversation. Although I don't have a problem with people talking at coffee shops. That does seem to be a very appropriate
coffee's not a
place to
meal.
have a conversation.
Now, okay, let's say that people weren't there writing on their laptops. They bought a nice latte at Starbucks. They sat down and did the crossword in the newspaper.
See, I've got this written down. It better be the crossword because Sudoku is crossword for dumb people.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
We've hit that.
We've covered that before.
Going back,
okay.
I know Paul Shaughnessy posed this question to you, and I really want to pick back up on the coffee inside an avocado thing. Because you can consume both of those things, is avocado inside a coffee a sandwich?
No, because you're not actually consuming the cup.
Is it not just an open-faced avocado coffee sandwich?
No, because you're not consuming the whole thing. The avocado shell is just a cup. It's not like a bread bowl that has soup in it that you eat, which
So
is a sandwich.
is a soup in a bread bowl a sandwich?
Unquestionably. But this is not, because it's just the rind of an avocado you're going to chuck when you're finished, which are like $3 these days at the store. I went to buy one on Wednesday or Thursday, whatever day it was, and they used to be $1.99, and now they're like $3.69.
Yeah,
Did you run into that same avocado bully from last time?
No, they were. Well, the thing is, because now they're so expensive, there were all kinds of them. I still bought one, but it was annoying to spend that much more money on them.
Well, Tim, this is the free market working in action. Last year, more people consumed avocados than avocados that were put into production for the following year, so they had to up the prices so many people would stop buying because they're running out.
I mean, that could very well be the case.
That is true.
I believe you. I'm guessing you're not making that up. But it's just annoying that overnight it switched from $1.95 to $3.69.
Well, the grocery stores are being charged more for the avocados. So they have to
No,
sell them
I
for
get
more.
why it's happening. I just think it's weird that it happened immediately.
It's not like that time that bananas were going extinct.
Not like, good God. It's like the scam that KFC is running these days. Where, remember, Toonie Tuesday used to be two pieces, that used to be a meal for $2?
Yeah.
Now it's $3.69. But at least they had the common sense to gradually wean you into it to where you don't feel like $3.69 is that much. But, it jumped quite a bit in like 10 years.
You know what the big problem is, too? Is that Tim no longer has a competing fried chicken franchise if KFC pisses him off too much because Popeyes is owned by the conglomerate that owns Wendy's and Tim Hortons.
There are no Popeyes near me anyway.
That's a sad life.
I thought that Wendy's owned KFC.
Does Wendy's own KFC?
Yeah, I thought so.
Well, the
no,
Yum
I think
Corporation
KFC is like
KFC.
Taco. It's KFC, Taco Bell, and
Wendy's
Pizza Hut.
And
that's
Pizza Hut,
that's
yeah,
their.
That's
yeah.
right. Good call. And Popeyes is owned by the Wendy's Corporation?
Yeah, because Tim Hortons just bought Popeyes.
It's owned by Dave Thomas?
Yeah.
Tim, spokesperson for Dave Thomas?
Yeah.
All right, do you have anything else?
What else do I have here? I have that problem with liquor rankings.
Yeah, well, I saw you put this out with your liquor ranking, so please enlighten us.
Yeah, well, this is, of course, by no means my creation. frequently, being a bon vivant on Twitter, I frequently see what the people are talking about, what's trending, what's interesting, and I noticed that on, was it Tuesday, I suppose it was, or Monday, one of the things that was flying around the Twitterverse were people who were ranking alcohol. So I figured, well, I have thoughts on this.
Specific down to
what
brands
I think is
or just
better,
alcohol
whatever
in
these
general?
people think. What did you say, sorry?
Are we talking specific brands of alcohol or just types of alcohol in general?
Types of alcohol.
Okay.
And so, I spent 3 seconds deciding, well, it's got to go Scotch. And then I realized, well, but if you just say you like Scotch, you're just you're a pleb. You either like single malt or you like blend Scotch. There's a big difference. So I figured, show a little bit of class and say, okay, I prefer single malt, then blended, then I prefer rye whiskey, Irish whiskey, and then I figured bourbon's excellent, so that needs to be 5. Which means I left some really good liquors on the table because I really enjoy various other things, but I just knew that vodka had to be dead last because that's the drink of 18-year-old children, and I knew that single malt Scotch had to be first because that's the best alcohol that the good Lord ever created, and then the rest of the ranking was just sort of fitting them in between.
You know what your list sounds like? Someone who's super pretentious about liquor who doesn't even drink.
Plus, I feel like there's multiple ways to go about it. Like, I feel like I don't like vodka personally, but I feel like you could almost put something higher on the list because of its versatility. So vodka and rum and things of that nature would be much higher. Gin.
Rum is fine. I don't mind rum. I'm a brand person. I only like Appleton Estates rum.
I don't drink rum anymore. It
for
angers up the blood too much.
I don't drink it.
I know
much.
a lot of people who can't
Gin
drink
is okay
like
too,
Sailor
but-
Jerry's because it makes them too angry.
I haven't been in a fist fight since I stopped drinking rum. So
Yeah, rum's all right. I drink it at Christmas time with an eggnog or something, although I prefer brandy in my eggnog personally. But rum's okay.
brandy in my eggnog.
Brandy's not
Tim
something
thinks he's a
you just
madman.
drink. It's as expensive as rum is. What are you talking about?
You brandy. Listen to you.
It's actually really good. And the same with gin is fine.
I like that you don't have beer anywhere on this list.
Well, I'm saying, are we talking liquors
I
or like
like
all
beer.
alcohol? Because I feel like just
all
wine
alcohol,
or
I
beer
like
would
beer.
be relatively
beer
high.
would make the top 10.
Listen, all liquor is
like-
the same. What gets you blackout quickest is
Yeah,
the best
see,
type of
this
liquor.
is exactly the problem. Is that people like you are not drinking alcohol to appreciate its
You
flavor.
mean alcoholics?
Yeah, yes. When I don't drink very often, but when I do, unless I'm out with friends or
Well, yeah, 'cause you're
something.
spending all your money on single malt.
And when we reverse engineer this entire show, Roger Moore is an iconic movie actor because he acted in so many Bonds, so he has to have a lot of credit. You get no credit because you just mentioned you don't drink that much. What
I
do
don't drink a whole
What do you
lot.
know?
But
Are
right
you
now,
drinking
in
every
my
night,
cupboard-
pal?
Right now in my cupboard, I have a bottle of Johnny Walker Black, which is excellent. Like that's
great.
I drink that because I thoroughly enjoy its flavor, and I have a sophisticated enough palate to be able to appreciate the subtleties in scotches.
Fair.
That's why they're ahead.
I work at the Fantasy Sports Network, so I drink Pabst because it's $2.
I just drink wine.
Yeah.
Wine is okay.
Pound
I'm
red wine.
starting to get there. I was never a wine person.
No, eventually you
But-
get to the certain age where, hey,
Yeah.
red wine's fine. Red wine, not super fattening. It's great.
Oh, that's nice.
Still one of the
You're
reasons.
concerned about the caloric value of wine.
I am.
Then that is misplaced attention. That should be something
I
that
am
never
concerned-
Pat
occurs to
dropped
you.
ketchup for sriracha because of the caloric value
Yeah, well,
and the
that's
flavor.
because he
but
doesn't know what he's doing.
this is a
What do you
this
mean I
is a
don't know
character
what I'm
trait.
doing? Clearly I do. I'm not the one who's going to suffer a massive heart attack in 3 years.
Yes.
Well, he's
because-
not because he's going to stop
yes,
eating
it's
fried
your
chicken for
decision
lunch
to
on
switch.
Tuesdays because it's $3.69.
Yeah, because it's your decision to switch from ketchup to sriracha that has made all the difference.
It is indicative of the series of decisions
Oh,
that
yes,
I
yes,
have
okay.
made to cut down on my caloric
Yes,
intake
please, let's-
to make sure that my heart remains pumping.
Yes, because every decision you have made in the last few years has been indicative to good heart health, right?
Generally speaking, yes.
Really? Do we really want to play this game?
I mean,
think-
I quit smoking until I couldn't anymore.
Okay. Well,
Which some would argue, I guess, long term does help your heart, but in the short term
In the-
does not help your
No,
heart.
I gained like 30 pounds. It
that's
sucked.
because you replaced it with eating.
No, when
No,
you
your heart slows down.
Yeah,
and you gain weight.
And when you quit smoking, your metabolism changes. Your entire inside, it's so used to taking in carcinogens and everything that's in cigarettes that
You're
your
telling
body,
this to me?
yeah, your body needs to adapt as soon as you quit. And then it just one of the reasons.
Two times I've tried to quit. I didn't replace it with eating. I would just chew on straws. I would. That's what I do.
So you're just some mental person.
Not a mental
Going
person.
around chewing on straws. Hey, you
That's
got
a very
Hey
effective
Tim,
thing to
you
do.
got a drink with that? No, I just like straws.
Tim, were you the kind of person who, like, the little tiny rubber the rubber bandy thingy on water bottles that separates the cap from the rest of the
I
bottle?
had to rip those off right away.
Yeah, I do.
It drive me nuts.
Do you chew on them, though?
Insane. What?
Do you chew on them, though?
No, I rip them off and throw them away.
Oh, fair enough.
Drive me nuts.
And I feel like your liquor ranks list is not very indicative of the common man who you say that you are, the tribune of.
Explain. Tell me why enjoying alcohol that's available at any liquor store is not indicative of what common people enjoy.
Tell you, people aren't just sitting around drinking single malts. They aren't.
Not everybody. But I think most of the common men would appreciate, even though they don't drink it a whole lot, that it is a superior form of alcohol.
Rum is more of a people's liquor.
It's more popular, but I don't think that means that people think it's better.
Well, again, it all comes, this is like an MVP debate. It all comes down to what you're classifying this list as. Is it a ranking of do you determine liquor value through versatility and affordability, or do you determine it through yes, maybe single malt is the best of the alcohols when you've bought it enough to acquire a taste for it, but I don't know. I don't really like
which is my position, and I thoroughly enjoy its flavor more than any other thing.
Fair.
Although blend scotch is, to me, a relatively close second. I thoroughly enjoy that, too.
I do like how you call people who just say Scotch plebes, but then you put the types of Scotch 1 and 2 on your list.
Yeah, because those are the types of scotch that I like in that order.
Who drinks liquor just to see how it tastes?
Yeah, it's not the
people.
point. Liquor tastes bad for a
Most
reason.
people.
No, they don't. Most people take it to get drunk.
No, they just come home after work and have a beer just to have one. They don't have to have
Nah,
12.
I've never been that person.
There are very few people that come home after work and have a beer. They
I
usually
can't.
have all the beer in the house.
Whenever I buy a case of beer and put it in my fridge,
But you just
I'll
said
have
you don't really drink.
One a day.
One a day. Those
See,
would be gone.
I don't even see the point.
Gone. Yeah, neither do I.
I have reached a point in my life where, and through just discovery of different types of beer, because when you're in high school, you don't realize beer tastes different. It just, because Canadian and Keith's and Coors don't really taste all that different, but you can afford them. So yeah, sure, if I find a nice IPA or something, I can maybe have one of those.
Craft beer out. Get your fucking
Oh yeah,
craft
that's
beer
something
out
I
of
do
here.
not like. That to me is the antithesis of being.
If
a man
you're
of the people.
enjoying beer
the
based
various-
on flavor,
various
why would
craft
you hate
beer-
craft beer?
I don't.
Because look,
hate
when I'm looking to
craft-
get drunk, I'm not drinking craft beer.
It's the people who like craft beer. You know it because they let you know within the first 10 seconds of your conversation that they're fans of craft
Well,
beer.
we're in 56, 51, 2 of our conversation.
I was obviously being hyperbolic.
Well, I was being hyper specific.
Okay, well, you win.
All right.
Big winner.
Hey!
You're the big winner here.
But, so I've come out and given my ranks on booze. You haven't even suggested any. You've just said,
I
I like
suggested
this
many.
type. Oh, I like that type.
I said that probably if I was doing my list and I would do it upon versatility and affordability, I think mine would be very obvious. It would be beer, then wine, then rum, then gin, and then, even though I don't like it, vodka, because it's in everything. It doesn't really taste like anything, so it mixes with
Vodka
everything.
Is the nut low alcohol?
I don't
It's
mind
just-
vodka. You can drink a vodka and water.
It's the
Boom.
sort of thing that a 19-year-old brings to his first party, or a 19-year-old girl brings to her first party just to get wasted on.
So here's the strange thing. You hate craft beer, and you seem to hate the people who drink craft beer, but you're the same person who hates on people's choices of alcohol because, I used to drink that when I was 19. So you're in this
Tim didn't
weird...
drink anything when he was 19. He barely drinks anything now. And by the time you're 19, you've moved on to the stronger liquors. When you're drinking vodka, you're 14. Let's be real here.
That was not my experience.
Well, shocking your experience doesn't match up with anyone else's.
Oh, well, no one's experience matches
Eating
anyone
by
else's.
yourself
Yeah.
in diners, being on a bad tipping website.
Oh, I'm a fan of diners. There's no good diners near me, or I would go to a diner every
Well,
damn
I
day.
would say that diners are more... They serve your purposes better because a diner, you get to... One, it's more individualistic because, it's a trucker place and that kind of thing.
Totally agree.
And then he can tell them that there's nothing finer than eating in their diner.
But also you get to sit at the table right in front of the staff so that you're never too far away from the waitresses and stuff.
And
Yeah,
sitting-
well, when I go to
and si-
diners, there's one in the city I've been to a couple of times. I like to go right to I like to be at the counter.
Yeah, well,
and,
yeah.
and people don't discriminate against you by being at yourself at a diner.
Exactly. And that's
No,
why they
it's
point you
quite
in the
common,
direction of
yeah.
the waitress because she sits there and tells you her tales and such. I assume all diners are in the South because I want them to be. But yeah, no, diners are for you, Tim. There you go.
I agree.
All right, so I have some guest topics here. Shout out to John in China Club John, our friend. So
He makes football drafts very difficult.
He does. It's always really weird time-wise.
You know what? He is not the one that makes our
It's
draft.
true. He is not the most
To be
difficult
perfectly
person.
fair.
Just despite the fact that he is a complete day off, 18 hours off from where we are.
Yeah, John is almost never the problem. There are other individuals who needlessly cause problems.
That's true.
All right, so how about this one? He says, how about the price of a pair of Yeezys and how Kanye West probably loves Asians because they will pay anything for his shoes?
How do you spell Yeezys?
Take a guess.
How do you think you spell it?
I don't know.
Just guess.
Yesssies?
No. Do you know? Okay, well, I guess we gave it. We buried the lead there, but I can't really ask you what Yeezys are associated with because we said Kanye West.
Kanye. Well, I know who Yeezus is.
John says these are very popular where he lives in China.
Looking at some photos of them now. Oh my God.
But he says that everyone just wears the cheap copies that are like $30.
Mm-hmm.
And
these are god awful ugly.
Would you rather wear those or the Lonzo Ball shoes?
I don't even think the Lonzo Ball shoes look that bad.
Yeah, they're just super expensive.
I just think that LeVar Ball is a tool.
Although if you like the Lonzo Ball shoes, they're the malt liquor of shoes.
Oh, are they? Explain that to me.
No,
they're so expensive.
No, they're not the malt liquor.
Oh, sorry.
They're
yeah,
the opposite of malt
sorry,
liquor.
they're the single malt of shoes.
The Starburys are the malt liquor of shoes.
that is true.
What's the Colt
They should really not
shoes?
put Starburys in like boxes. They should just give them to you in brown paper bags.
All right, well, how about this one? He says that he wants Tim to speak about Trump's ties to Russia because he thinks that would be funny to hear Tim talk about it.
I mean, I can do that.
Let's hear it.
I don't think Trump himself probably has any actual ties. What I think is probably the case is that various people who work under him have some pseudo or clear connective ties, and that they've just been deceiving Trump, and Trump's relatively easy to deceive, so he doesn't know what's going on and had no idea what was going on underneath him. So people were sort of just acting sort of clandestinely behind the scenes. And that's why he's so angry about it, because he didn't know what was going to happen, and he didn't know what was happening, and he's annoyed that people are saying, oh, well, this somehow delegitimizes his election because people under him may have been engaged in some underhanded politics. Because, of course, the Clintons would never engage.
Why do the Clintons have to be any part of this?
Because that's against whom they ran.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do
with
Trump's
this
ties to Russia.
specifically. Yeah.
I don't think he actually personally has any actual
quit defending
And
your
stop
boy.
defending Trump by using Trump tactics. Just bringing up Hillary all the time.
Well, but I mean, it's not like doing it randomly. I'm saying,
But you are,
ran against
because you
her.
baked it into every argument you have.
Also, I don't think Trump would ever be upset about the sanctity of his election win. It's not as if he, constantly brings up the fact that he won the election.
Well, you know why he has to do that?
Because he's got no other accomplishments.
I think it's because people are constantly trying to delegitimize him as a president because they're annoyed that they couldn't beat him at the ballot box, and now they've got to try to beat him in the press.
So
and listen, I'm no fan. I'm not a fan
You're
of
the
Trump.
biggest fan. The biggest.
I'm not. I've been an open critic of him. I always said in the primaries he was the 17th option for me to 17. I've long been a pretty skeptical person.
No.
This is very revisionist history.
This is. I'm trying to think. Who's a quarterback who's not Tom Brady that Tim hates?
Cam Newton.
Okay, if Cam Newton were to beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, you would have to secretly, at the very least, love Cam Newton because he beat Tom Brady. So in the same sense, you have to love Donald Trump because he beat Hillary Clinton.
You know what? I think that is an excellent analogy, and I think that adequately reflects my feeling about it. So no, I mean, I understand a lot of this Russia stuff, right, is built up by the left-wing media in an effort to try to delegitimize a Republican being president.
I believe
really
they're called fake news.
No, what bothers most of these people is that it isn't a Democrat anymore in power because Barack Obama single-handedly devastated that entire party. And so because they have no actual power anymore, they're using what are probably some legitimate connections between like Paul Manafort or Carter Page or some other scandalous individuals, maybe Roger Stone, with Russia.
Your boy Roger Stone. You love Roger Stone.
He's a very fascinating character. It doesn't mean I don't think he's to be very that one shouldn't be very skeptical of him. I just think, and I think it's fair to say that those people probably are sort of embroiled in various issues with the Russians. Maybe they're not even illegal, but it's certainly an imbroglio, whereas I don't think Trump himself is quite Machiavellian enough to do that. He reminds me, remember when Mr. Burns says to Smithers, I don't think Mr. Simpson is the brilliant tactician we thought he was?
Yes.
In a lot of ways, I think that's what's going on here. And so I think you're reading into this stuff, or maybe people are, I think they are, reading into Trump. I mean, on the one hand, they say he's a dolt and a fool, blah, blah, blah. On the other hand, he said he masterminded a plot with Russia to bring down the poor, innocent Clintons who've never done anything wrong in their lives. And so, I just don't...
all I know is he said imbroglio, and all I thought was, it's a me, imbroglio. A racist imbroglio.
I'm no Trump defender, but I'm just a little more open-minded than some of the rabid press are about him.
So when you say that the left-wing media is trying to bring down Trump and do all this and delegitimize him, you had no problem when Donald Trump was out there saying that Barack Obama wasn't from America.
Yes, I did. I said at the time that was stupid.
Yeah, you said stupid. He's definitely not from America.
Pardon me?
You said he's definitely not from America. There should be no debate about it.
I said no.
Where's the birth certificate, Tim?
I never once gave any credence to that type of... You know me. I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. And I had no time for Trump. I mean, this is one of the reasons that Trump's a bad person, is because he was allowing people like Roger Stone to move him in that InfoWars direction. That was deplorable of him.
But you love InfoWars. You're essentially Alex Jones.
I am not Alex Jones. That guy is a disgusting human being, too.
Someone tweeted out yesterday...
Was it the before and after picture thing? Yeah, I saw that today, too.
I tweeted
was
that
it
out.
you? That was great.
Yes.
Take my new supplement. Here's my before and after. Now I'm just real red.
And what he's not read from is the embarrassment of making up stories about Sandy Hook, which what he should be embarrassed.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think that guy gets embarrassed about much.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he does, which is why he and the president get along. There's not a lot of shame when you can... He's just not a very shame... Trump yesterday was telling Emmanuel Macron, you were my guy all along in the election.
Which was not true.
Well, I mean, of course it wasn't true. He wasn't openly supporting Marine Le Pen.
No, he was the Penna's mightier.
But he was certainly playing footsie with Madame Le Pen. Certainly, and so to say to Macron...
Well, I mean, for her sake, you better hope it was just footsie.
Well, to be fair, he's not getting any at home. I mean, she
won't
even hold his hand.
I have watched that like the Zapruder film.
It's so funny.
It occurs to me that has to be a hand slap.
Okay, so what was the single best image of Trump's trip to the Middle East?
100% the glowing orb.
Was it the glowing orb? Was it the hand slap away, or was it Pope your enthusiasm?
Well, I think we could also put the shove the Danish Prime Minister.
That's pretty good.
Oh, that was really good. But I feel like the orb and just how mad I was that I saw it even 7 minutes after everyone else did, and I knew the Space Jam joke was already gone.
Or people were photoshopping in Saruman next to him, and it didn't even look weird.
The thing was, it was that people would Photoshop in Saruman and then go, "This doesn't even look that out of place."
I don't understand what the orb is yet.
I don't know. I think it was.
I've been looking. It's what's the deal with this orb?
I from my understanding, I didn't read too much into it. I thought it was like a globe that was illuminated, and they were all touching it because they want peace across the world or something.
Is that what that's supposed to be?
I think so.
Maybe.
It's so weird and just so bizarre. And listen,
how bizarre?
I have criticized the previous president for his various foibles, like saluting a military man with a coffee in his hand.
And like that time you were really upset he used Dijon mustard. Although you love Dijon mustard.
I openly mocked him for putting Dijon mustard on his hamburger. Yeah, so I mean, I will, turnabout is fair play. I'll criticize the current president, for doing foolish things internationally.
You rank Dijon mustard number 1 in your condiment rankings, by the way.
Yeah, but you don't put it on your hamburger at McDonald's. That just shows you again the patrician nature of the president.
Can we all just agree
he's no single malt Tim, tribune of the people?
I don't think.
Can we all just agree though that if Trump were to get an NBA player's powers from the glowing orb, he would be the Sean Bradley
Look at
of
Trump's
that group?
menu. You don't think that's a man of the people?
Who?
The president's menu for the things he wanted at his hotel room?
That wasn't a real menu.
Well, Morency and Cam did a whole show about it.
Yeah.
Well, they thought it was real.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, it reminded me of basically your diet.
No, there's a lot more vegetables and fruit in my diet.
Well, there was an equal amount of hungry man dinners.
I did appreciate there were hungry men in there. But again, there's probably good reasons for that.
What would be the good reason? He has
he
has a 24-hour on-staff chef. Why does he need
not in Saudi Arabia, he does.
I'm sure there is a chef that travels around with the president.
Well, maybe he just feels safer eating packaged and sealed food.
There's a lot of people out to get him.
I guess so.
But you asked me what he's... Yeah, I think it's either the orb or I think the shove.
The shove
is really good. And it's
great.
It's not just the shove. It's the shove and the
shoot adjust. Yeah, I'm in front.
Again, he's got to be so imperial. That's the thing about him. He just has that strut. There's a lot of testosterone there, for good or for ill.
And it's crazy because he's 70. So maybe he's getting those
But that's a person who never
No, he's
drinks
taking
and never
whatever
smokes.
supplement Alex Jones is, getting all jacked and red.
But if you go spend your whole life and you never drink and you never smoke, then you probably are healthier than most 70-year-olds at that, the same age.
Potentially.
The same era.
But I mean, to go back to it, I don't know how strong his heart is with the meals that he eats. He eats fast food like 3 times a day.
Well, and of course the media have to take shots at the poor man by saying that he takes an extra scoop of ice cream, right?
Yeah, shouldn't be eating ice cream. He's the president. He needs to be alert.
Well, somebody's staying warm in the bullpen.
Yeah, well, we talked about that last time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did.
That was one of the better Photoshops of the year, too.
There was, okay, so out of all the images, I think my favorite one was terrified Steve Bannon around all the Arab people.
That was good. When they're all dancing around with their swords.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, even just the video of Trump doing the sword dance is fantastic.
That was great. You could tell that Pope Francis felt very awkward during their meeting. You want to talk about two human beings who are nothing alike.
Well, I mean, Pope Francis isn't, his point of view on half the stuff goes in conflict with the Catholic Church.
In some ways, yes. But just like the way they live their lives are very different.
Really? Donald Trump and the Pope?
Yeah,
They're living
like,
two completely
not just
separate
sort of different.
I don't know. Until that moment, I'd never seen him in the same room.
I mean, I just think about, when I think about Pope and how popes act, I just think about him on Twitter all day.
A lot of popes, live
taking
very
shots at people.
No, but you're misrepresenting my point. Most popes, like the previous pope, lived very magisterially, lived in the papal apartments, lived a very luxurious life as pope. This pope doesn't.
Who? Hitler Youth, last pope?
Well, he's only that because he had to. He was a child. We're not going to even get into that. He lived a very lavish life, as most popes do. If you've seen that HBO show, The New Pope, or the Young Pope story, that's a relatively accurate reflection of the way Benedict lived. But
well, to tie that back in, and we were talking about The Wire, we were talking about Sopranos.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not actually how the Pope lives.
I think they brought in experts to help inform them for that show.
Do you think that Pope Benedict smoked as many cigs as young Pope?
I doubt it. But of course, like everything in this world, anytime a TV show in the modern era has somebody smoking, they have to die from it, right? That's the law. The young Pope has to have a heart attack from it. No one's allowed to just smoke and it just be a part of their persona. It has to hurt them in some way.
Well, this brings us to the next John topic. He wants to know what are the benefit of harsh cigs versus light cigs.
Well, it's like the difference between regular beer and light beer, right? If you're going to smoke, you should have a cigarette that actually tastes like tobacco, and you should be able to enjoy the full flavor experience of it. If you're going to do something that's not good for you, no half measures. You might as well go the whole way in. Instead of enjoying something lighter, just be a man and smoke if you're going to smoke and enjoy the full flavor.
I don't know. I can't relate to this specific sentiment, but I do like the whole, if you're going to do something unhealthy, just go all in. Like when they started taking the trans fats out of KFC, like why?
Well, don't even get me started.
We've had this conversation before, but it is just in the sense of I'm going to KFC. I know what I'm doing. I'm basically signing a legal contract right now, stipulating that I know the health risks involved in going to KFC. Let me eat the best kind of KFC I can.
Yeah, or like I said, buying a bag of baked Lays. Like, get over yourself.
They're
Either
not good.
Don't eat chips or eat regular potato chips.
Now you can find some.
How do you feel?
You can find some, not baked Lays. They're no good, but there are some.
Crispers are good.
Yeah, I like Crispers.
They're baked. Tim, how do you feel about any sort of potato chip flavor that deviates from like the original 6 or 7?
I don't like all those newfangled flavors.
I agree.
I don't care for them. I've tried them. Like, I've tried to be open-minded about them and try them because maybe they are good, but I can't remember the last modern contemporary flavor that I thought was worth ever having a second bag of. I tried those marinara and mozzarella stick.
Doritos are different.
Sweet chili heat Doritos are top notch.
I think Doritos are different because they are a millennial chip.
Oh,
totally. They're totally a millennial chip. And they're corn chips. They're not even regular chips, right? They're hard to say. I mean, maybe new Doritos, that is different. But yeah, other than like the solid regular 5 or 6 flavors of chips, they're just no good.
Where do you draw the line? Like, do you go to all dressed in smoky bacon, or is that too far for you too?
No, those are fine. Those are old-time flavors. Those have been around for decades.
Well, they've been around forever, so they gotta be good.
Well, you know what? Yes, that actually is right.
Well, all dressed is
been
only
around
Canadian
for a long time on the marketplace.
Really? Yeah,
there
there's
because
ketchup chips.
People like it. They buy it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be there if people didn't. They wouldn't make all dressed chips or smoky bacon chips or whatever if nobody bought them. If nobody
then why are they coming up with new flavors if these old ones are
just working out so well? Because they also want to try and integrate new flavors in because maybe those will catch on too. Obviously, the first potato chip wasn't an all dressed chip. They had to introduce that flavor, so they have to introduce new flavors.
Oh, it's too new. Don't like it.
But I don't personally care. I'm not telling them that they shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that they're no good. And I shouldn't. I don't have to stand here and praise something I don't think is any good.
Final thing. Someone asked you on Twitter. I have it down here. Tim, can you please choose between these movies of which are the best?
Okay.
Being John Malkovich, Fight Club, Eraserhead, The Big Lebowski, Dr. Strangelove, Mulholland Drive, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Pulp Fiction, and The Truman Show. You responded. I'd have to think about it for a bit, but Strangelove comes in first, and anyone who disagrees is wrong. So why did you give your answer if you had to think about it a bit, and then claim that anyone who would disagree with you about something that you needed to think about is wrong?
What he was asking for was a rank of all those movies, and I'm not sure how I would rank every one of those movies. I would have to think it through. But Dr. Strangelove is with a bullet is the best movie on that list. There's really no comparison. And I would say that of the movies that are there, probably Eraserhead is the worst. After that,
have you seen all of these movies?
Pardon me?
Have you seen all of these movies?
Yes, I think I've seen. No, I don't think. I know I've seen every one of these movies.
Okay, and I mean, listen, I'm in the camp of Dr. Strangelove too. It's one of my top 3 favorite movies ever.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
But I think you can dispute the quality of.
Yeah, if you don't know what you're talking about, you can dispute. Sure.
I think I would say if there's anyone that has,
you could put it this way.
Pulp Fiction's up there.
But you could put Pulp Fiction up against it. You could easily put Mulholland Drive up against it.
Oh no, you can't. Sorry, Mulholland Drive's a good movie.
Mulholland Drive already voted as the best movie of this millennium? Yeah, no, that's terrible, though. Thanks for playing.
Dr. Strangelove is objectively a better movie in every sense of the word.
I agree that Dr. Strangelove is a better movie. I think you can have that argument, because Mulholland Drive is also an excellent movie. So is Pulp Fiction, and some people love 2001 if they want to have their Kubrick.
That's a very good movie. I won't argue against 2001.
I feel like
filmmakers
filmmakers appreciate that movie more than the general public appreciates
2001?
Yeah.
I
remember my first day
I don't love it.
Yeah, my first day of film class, it was like, well, let's watch 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Well, here's the secret thing about Kubrick movies is that the public don't like them. Film critics like them because they can appreciate all the very intelligent and beautiful things that he's doing with film and story. But the average person don't like his Eyes Wide Shut is not a movie that the average person could enjoy.
Well, it's not a very relatable
In a lot of ways, it's not a very good movie.
Love Eyes
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie. It's not a good movie. You know what I mean? I can make that distinction.
What would we say is the most overrated movie of this list, though?
Weirdly enough, Fight Club is. I love Fight Club.
I would agree.
But Fight Club has now become the most overrated movie.
Yeah,
on this
I felt
list.
the same way.
I love Fight Club.
Do you feel like some of that
I
comes
would rate
into
it
like
an
you have to
A-.
factor in rewatchability into a movie?
Well, I mean, I think Fight Club actually kind of gets better for a few times you watch it after
I guess
the first time.
you can look for the little Brad Pitt snippets
It
throughout
is,
and stuff.
but here's a quick tip to anyone.
How are people ranking Cabin in the Woods? Like, that movie was okay.
Oh, yeah, Cabin in the Woods rules.
That's a really
It was
good
an
movie.
okay movie. I would, if I'm grading it, I'd give it a B+.
Okay. Like, I like it more than I like The Truman Show. Truman Show's fine.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point.
And
I don't know if
But I don't feel like anyone overrates The Truman Show.
I also don't love Eraserhead.
No, I don't.
Yeah. That is objectively the worst
That's why it
movie
would
on
be
this
last for me. I didn't care for it at all.
In terms of the David Lynch pantheon of movies, that would be near the bottom. I mean, it's above Dune, but, I prefer Lost Highway. I prefer Blue Velvet. I much prefer Mulholland Drive. That is his best movie. I like the straight story more than I like Eraserhead.
Is Big Lebowski overrated?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Is it
No, it's not.
because
And
it's been chopped into memes at this point?
Yeah,
I feel like that's hurt it.
It's become way too... That's why Spinal Tap continues to live on as a great cult movie, because it never got overexposed. Big Lebowski has seeped into internet culture enough where people who would never stumbled across the movie or enjoyed it for what it was.
And now such expectations of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now people talk about it like it's the best Coen Brothers movie. I like The Big Lebowski. It's one of my favorite Coen Brothers movie, but it's definitely not the best.
Also, to be fair, you don't like the Coen Brothers, so that's not saying much.
What are you talking about?
You don't really like the Coens.
I do like the Coens.
You don't.
I do.
Like, I really
In fact, I've seen all their movies. You haven't.
I've seen almost all of their movies.
So what's their best movie?
Having seen all their movies is not a marker of liking.
Why?
Or not liking.
They've been around forever. I've seen more of them, so clearly I'm better at it.
I think that is. I never said anything like that, and no one would ever agree with that.
Blood Simple's their best movie.
I don't. That's not even close to true. We
That
don't have, you
is
know what
true.
theue best movie is.
No, it's not No Country for Old Men. It's a very
It
good
is.
movie.
It
It's
just
not.
so clearly
Just because
is.
you like it doesn't make it their
Not
best.
just me. It's also by and away their most acclaimed movie.
Sure. But, I mean, actually, you know what? If you went back and looked at, like, the reviews for Blood Simple, I would say it would be close.
And was that nominated for any Oscars?
No, it wasn't, but it was also
It
it was
that-
also an
Sure.
independent movie. Just because one has a bigger budget doesn't make it better.
Because if there's one thing the Oscars doesn't do, it's reward weird independent movies.
They didn't in 1990.
Not for Best Picture.
Or 1986.
When was the last independent film that won Best Picture?
This year with the movie that 12 people saw. What are you talking about?
I turned off the
Tim,
Oscars.
you understand that this is a new thing, right?
That movie, Old No Country, is 10 years old.
Yeah, New Country was also a high-budget studio movie.
Is it that high budget?
Yeah.
Looking at, I don't think they spent that much money on it.
I'd say it was like a $50 to $80 million film.
I don't find the money amount.
It's usually
$25 million.
Anyway, it's not an independent movie made on no budget. And those movies are starting to seep through because there is no room for the $50 million movie anymore in Hollywood. It's either a super cheap $5 million movie that some independent studio produces, or it's $200 million.
Or it's a comedy.
Because movie houses aren't making movies anymore, right? They make 6 or 7
That's
movies a year.
how independent movies end up winning stuff at the Oscars because they're just
They're not going to give an Oscar to a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And so there's not a whole lot else to choose from at this point.
No, I know that these are real problems, right? The movie industry is suffering from a real issue of doing nothing but remakes of remakes of remakes and sequels of movies.
There's only 7 storylines.
Well,
so.
I would also say that they're not suffering because these movies are making billions of dollars.
Yeah, they are making billions of dollars, but
it is down across the board, though.
It's down across the board in North America.
Yeah, it's true.
But they're making these movies so international audience can consume them.
Like Great Wall with Matt Damon.
Oh, it's so great. It just really capitalized on the whole big fervor for The Wall.
It's best Wall.
Anyway, of that list, Gary, which one is your favorite? Because I'm with Tim. I think Dr. Strangelove is my favorite one, but I don't think it's... You could easily argue other ones on that list.
I would say Dr. Strangelove is the best movie, and I have a very,
What do you have against Mulholland Drive, by the way?
He probably thinks it's too independent.
No, it's just I think it is weird for the sake of being... I think it's David Lynch at his worst.
No, it's David Lynch at his best.
No, I think that he needs to be restrained by some of his weirdness, which is why I think, at least of what I've seen, the new Twin Peaks have done that. He hasn't been out to the max in weirdness, whereas I think it is just so indulgent. I think Mulholland Drive is a profoundly indulgent film, and not one that I think holds up.
No, that's
my opinion. Now, you can disagree. I'm sure there's lots of movie critics that feel very differently about it, and I appreciate that, but I just think it's David Lynch's worst tendencies not being checked. So that's why, I appreciate it as film. I think it can be, again, a great movie without being a good movie.
The things that David Lynch does well, and that I want from a David Lynch movie, and there's always some, there's horror in his movies despite the fact that he never makes a horror movie. Yeah. They can be very, very terrifying. They're always somewhat funny as well. They're beautiful to look at, and the camera does a lot of visual description. I mean, David Lynch is a very visual director, but he also combines that with a great soundtrack every single time. There's a certain mood that you get when you watch a David Lynch movie, and I feel like out of all of his, Mulholland Drive takes all those best parts of all of his movies and puts them into one. And you have a mystery on your hands, which is always nice.
But Fire Walk With Me has all those things.
Yeah, Fire Walk With Me has zero humor. And that's
not true. We were laughing within 5 minutes of watching that movie.
Okay, there is the scene when Lil comes out, and she's making a sour face, and that's how David Lynch is describing the plot details of this FBI investigation to someone. That's just more crazy than funny.
And the whole fight, the fight between the police officer.
That's not actually in the movie. That's a deleted scene.
Okay, well, you know what? The fact does that even really matter?
Well, the fact that there's a cut of the movie that's 7.5 hours long, what actually existed in the movie is what exists in the movie. I saw it the other night at the Carlton Cinema at midnight, the day before Twin Peaks re-premiered. I went and watched Fire Walk With Me. Yeah, I like Fire Walk With Me, but it's not a great achievement in movie making.
Oh God, no. But I think it's David Lynch. Again, I think it's classic Lynch.
No, it's not classic Lynch because there's no humor element of it whatsoever.
Listen, I'll concede I don't like him as much as you like him. It's one of those things. So I understand why you're praising him more than I would. I just think some of his stuff is just, he has some good instincts and some bad ones, and it depends movie by movie which predominates.
All right. Any final thoughts, Garion?
No.
Next time.
We got it all.
Next time on CUST Corner.
CUST Corner, it's CUST Corner. CUST Corner, it's CUST Corner. He's got the hottest takes with the highest stakes. He should be president of the United States, but it's CUST Corner, it's CUST Corner. CUST Corner, hee 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 hee.
Well, maybe you can describe your thoughts on why climate change isn't real.
It's not the position that I even take, but okay.
I don't know. That was one of the viewer questions that I was asked. Why does Tim deny climate change?
Well, I don't. We can save it for the next episode, but long story short, I don't doubt it happening. I just have some questions about the anthropogenic nature of things.
Hates climate change.
But of course, because I'm not because I'm not a degreed scientist like Bill Nye, who has a degree in engineering. How could I know anything?
Hates Bill Nye.
Yeah, I'm not a left-wing propagandist like him, so I mean, how could I know anything?
Well, I think for next time out, if people have listened this far, this is your
You are more than welcome.
This is your keyword. It is the long weekend for people. They need an hour and a half to fill up, and hopefully they've enjoyed their time. But we're going to do a special CUST Corner within the next 2 months where people can send in their questions for Tim to answer. Yep. So if you have questions out there, please don't put them on Twitter and don't tweet them at Tim because Tim doesn't need to know about them. So we can ask him on the spot to get his real reactions. Please send them to patmayohour@gmail.com if you have a question to submit for CUST Corner.
And try not to make them too time specific.
Yeah.
Because we don't know when we're going to do this.
Evergreen is always better than very time specific.
Or
things.
very massive cultural moments. Like if it's minute things that have taken place in the last week, probably not going to have any relevance.
Yeah, like if
LeBron
ends up winning the NBA championship, it's like, is LeBron the greatest athlete of all time?
We don't care.
Honestly, we don't even care about sports on the show.
No, not really. You can ask a sports question, and maybe you have some interesting ones like roller derby.
I was partially preparing for.
I used to love roller derby when I was young, till I found out it was fixed.
That's roller jam. That's like roller jam. Did you just go around your house stopping the jam clock at all times?
Whatever one was used to be on TMN.
Yeah, that was roller jam.
Yeah.
Is that roller jam?
Yeah.
I used to watch that every Friday night or whatever.
Yeah, it was all right before ECW. You used to have
exactly, and then I found out it was rigged, and I never watched it again.
I mean, I was big on the Las Vegas hot dice, and every time I used to score a goal in lacrosse, score, boom, stop the jam clock.
I mean, I was making fun of David Lynch for his indulgentness, and we've been nothing but indulgent.
Yeah, it's basically what CUST Corner is.
Garion Thorne, thank you for being here. Sorry for touching your hand.
No worries.
I think that was pretty awkward,
That's
but not
okay.
as awkward as Tim Andercust.
Tim Andercust.
Did you slap it away Melania style, Garion?
I did not. I embraced it.
He enjoys the gentle touch of Pat Mayo.
We all do.
All right, I got an engagement party to go to, and I have to edit the show and make sure it gets out. So,
hooray!
Time. You can follow me on Twitter at @ThePME if you want to download the audio version of the Pat Mayo Hour. Please do that wherever podcasts are downloaded for free. Not going to cost you a thing. For the video version, subscribe to YouTube or any of the VOD services that we offer, whether it's Roku, Apple TV, Xbox One, Amazon Fire Stick, all those places. And please tell a friend about CUST Corner because it will make them smarter based on how stupid the show is. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
That should be the tagline for the show.
What?
You will get smarter by learning the stupidity of listening to this.
Yeah?
The way you phrase it, I didn't phrase it correctly, but however you just phrased that, it should be like the tagline for this show.
No, the tagline is the Pat Mayo Hour. Not really an hour.
That's also great. Or send complaints, too.
Yep. All right, see you later, dude.
Yeah, this was fun. This one was actually a lot of fun.
Oh, by the way, I'm going in tomorrow to get my wedding party.
Yes, Butts has been asking me about this, and I keep telling him I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to have that figured out tomorrow.
So you're going to send us all an email, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, I'll send you all an email with like the code for like what you need to get. I'll go pick everything up.
What company are you going with?
I'm going with Moores.
Moores, okay.
So what you can do is you can go into Calgary Moores, get fitted up there, and you can go pick it up in Halifax.
What kind of suit is it?
I don't know. Black?
So, but just curious, like, is it got a vest or?
Cummerbund?
I don't know.
Like, that's what
I'm deciding this all tomorrow.
And what kind of tie or cravat?
Black?
What do you look best in, Tim?
No, but that's not what I mean.
You're wearing a normal black tie.
Is that what it is? Along like a foreign? Okay.
Oh, he definitely wanted a bow tie.
I'm wearing a bow tie, so.
Oh, I think cravats are cooler than bow ties. But anyway.
You can wear a bolo tie if you want to.
No,
I'll pay you $20 to wear a bolo tie at this wedding.
No, one has to wear what one has to wear, but the plain black tie is fine with me. Whatever.
You can't wear a top hat either.
Oh.
Or a monocle, and you can't have a pimpin' cane.
Oh. Anyway, very good. Yeah, send us that email, and I'll make sure I get suited up for it.
What are the odds Tim gets
drugged?
Drunked it. No, but like smashed at this wedding.
Oh, 0%, but he might get drugged.
I'm gonna try to get Tim
There's
smashed.
enough people I know at this wedding who would drug someone that would drug Tim just for laughs.
I mean, I'll have a room at the hotel. I'm sure I will be drinking relatively heavily.
Single malts.
Drunk enough to do a cartwheel?
Well, the last time we were at this place for a wedding, when they had the open bar, Jeff and Beth had the open bar, I had like 15 Canadian clubs.
Jesus.
He was out of control.
It wasn't just me.
Do you see how he changed the stance from the cartwheel? Because he's really backed off the cartwheel, like doing a cartwheel. He now says he has to practice if he wants to be able to do it. I thought it was just easy to do a cartwheel, Tim.
Listen, I can do it, but I need to have some practice at it. You know, I'm not a gymnast by nature.
But when you first brought this up,
that it was so
cartwheel,
easy. I could just do
no
one right
problem.
now.
I can do it. I'm tremendous. The best cartwheels in town.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, sometimes I might overestimate my capacities and skills, and that need to be grounded a little bit. I still think I can do it. I think anybody can. I was practicing in the pool after class the other day, and I think in water I can get it done, but on dry land might be harder.
Really? That's your take. You think it's
can
easier to do it in a pool? You can do a handstand in a pool, I bet, as well.
I can.
Would
but I was
you
working on like the
concede
mechanisms
Tim
after
having to buy you
class
a
in the pool.
wedding gift if he could just cartwheel at your wedding?
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. That'd be just cartwheel down the aisle.
Yeah.
Or hire a stunt double to do it, and make sure that the transition is seamless, so you don't know it's a stunt double.
I feel like you'd be able to
Like
pull that.
Roger
If anyone
Moore
could pull that off, you could pull that off, Tim.
That's the way you could always tell that. It's definitely Roger Moore climbing on top of that helicopter.
No, that wasn't like what's the Wayans brothers movie? I'm gonna get you, sucker. That there's just a whole fight scene of just like clearly not them, and they just pop up after. Like I think it's I don't know if it's Pam Grier or it's someone else. It's like
Is that the one with Keenan Ivory Wayans in it?
Yeah, it's one with Keenan Ivory Wayans, and it's like him and a woman are fighting people off, but then like it cuts to one part with the stunt double. It's just some dude with a mustache dressed up as a woman.